Hey everyone, welcome back to the Soundbyte. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to be looking at a bit of Cannibal Corpse, going back to some of the earlier work with a song called Hammer Smash Face, which unbelievably, despite the title, is actually one of their most popular songs. Um, in fact, I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, so please let me know in the comments. This was the song that was actually featured in the Ace Ventura movie, right, with Jim Carrey, um, where the band was sort of on stage and Jim Carrey kind of came in and sort of jumped in the mosh pit and stuff. I believe this was the song that they were playing, but do correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen that movie. But yeah, the Cannibal Corpse kind of got a bit of attention from that, and it's still to this day a talking point as well, you know. So because obviously that movie is kind of just legendary now, and then Cannibal Corpse kind of had their sort of moment in the spotlight right there and then, especially for that kind of music at that time, in the mid 90s, death metal was kind of fairly new-ish, it's not like it's now where it's sort of just become accepted overall, and music's become a bit more extreme. But back then it was it was still a little bit different. It was, people were still kind of listening to a lot of the old schoolers and all that stuff, and then these heavier bands were sort of coming through. So and sort of stepping things up to a next level. And Cannibal Corpse was certainly one of those bands that kind of moved the metal genre into the more extreme levels. It took me a while to get into the band, to be honest, because I was never a big death metal fan initially. Starting out, I remember the first time I heard death metal, yeah, it just sort of turned me off. And granted, I was kind of new to metal at the same time, and it's not the kind of music that you would jump into straight away if you're going to try and get into metal. You kind of want to step into it gradually by going through sort of more, melodic kind of stuff, I guess, or your bands like your Metallicas and stuff like that. Cannibal Corpse is kind of more on the other side of the extreme. But once you sort of get it and you get into it, it's fun stuff. Cannibal Corpse is one of those bands that has sort of obviously started some controversies, but a lot of those controversies start from people who just simply don't know that it's all tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff, much in the same way that there are, movies, horror movies that kind of, obviously no one thinks they're real, but it's just a movie, it's entertainment, and this is basically the equivalent of that. So, but for whatever reason, people have sort of decided, oh, these guys are Satanists and all this kind of stuff, and it's just no, it's just all fun stuff, And obviously, a lot of Cannibal Corpse fans know about Corpse Grinder Fisher, the vocalist, who is apparently one of the nicest people in the world, and a completely different person to what he does on the stage, which is actually not a uncommon thing. I've seen quite a few other people that are quite like that, who their stage persona is quite different to how they are actually in person. It's all part of the show, all part of the theatrics. So let's get right into it. This is Hammer Smashed Face by Cannibal Corpse off the Tomb of the Mutilated album way back in 1992. I believe Chris Barnes was actually still in the band at that time on vocals. So this is actually before before Corpse Grinder came into the band. But it's a classic nonetheless. Let's check it out. I love that that bit is just fun to listen to and fun to watch as well. I've seen the band a few times live, and yeah, it is one of those songs that has become sort of their encore song. But boy, it does play out alive very well. And they just nail it every time as well. It's an absolute classic. The thing about the vocals as well, that was, in all honesty, was one of the last things that I had to get past when I first got into this kind of music. You like a lot of people, and I've changed my thinking on this as well. There's a conversation that I've had with people as well. It's interesting how people listen to music, and a lot of people kind of get fixated on the vocals. And if the vocals don't kind of do anything for them, then it's hard for them to get into the music. And I'll admit that there was a bit of that when I was listening to music years and years ago when I was younger. And that was one of the reasons I could not get into the more extreme forms of metal, like the death metal and black metal and stuff. But I remember having a conversation with someone, and they said to basically treat these kind of vocals as just another instrument. And once I did that, it kind of just clicked, and that was it. I kind of went, "Oh wow, okay, I get it now." It's like it is not really the main focus of the music. It is just another instrument in in the band. The vocals are an instrument, even though it's a person and it's not actually an object. It is an instrument. It is a form of it's a part of the song, the band's music. So that was an interesting sort of switch over, and it kind of just opened up doors for everything, for or at least for me personally anyway. So I do encourage anyone who hasn't sort of gotten past into the sort of heavier sort of forms of metal, give that a go. It might work. I mean, it worked for me. So, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what they're singing about because you can't understand. And even if you do know what the lyrics are, does it really matter? I mean, at the end of the day, the music is really what's more important, because, I mean, I understand lyrics are important, but it's not like pop music, it's not really the main focus. At the end of the day, the music has to sort of do something. Otherwise, the lyrics are just on the vocals are kind of just, whatever, an add-on or whatever. So, but yeah, so obviously Chris Barnes' vocals were a bit different to Corpse Grinders. He's a bit more sort of guttural kind of stuff. So, yeah, it served Cannibal Corpse very well in the early days. Very, very extreme kind of stuff. Breakdown. I always forget about this big breakdown they put in the middle here. That is super heavy. That just guttural sort of chugging. Yeah, I do forget about that breakdown they put in the middle of that song. Because the rest of it kind of overshadows it a little bit. I will say about Cannibal Corpse is that they have a lot of groove in their music, which I absolutely love. It's not. As far as death metal, they're not the most technical of all of the death metal bands. I guess the old school stuff like your Obituaries and Morbid Angels and stuff, they were never about the technicality of the music. They were kind of more about how extreme and heavy and fast they can go, which is kind of elements of sort of like thrash metal and things like that. And I'm not saying that the music is not technical. It certainly is. It's certainly a step up from, some of the previous metal back in the 80s. But compared to, some of the more tech death and kind of stuff, bands like Nile and things like that, yeah, it's sort of a bit more simplified, I guess, especially when you sort of, compare the two right, next to each other. Doesn't make the music any more less interesting or fun to listen to though. But it's funny though when you go through some of the song titles, it's just hilarious, and how anyone could possibly think this is taken to be taken seriously is beyond me because this this the song titles like "Addicted to Vaginal Skin" and "Icon Blood" and "Necropedophile" and the cryptic. I mean, it's just the cryptic stench. Hammer Smash Face, even alone is just a pretty funny title. I don't know, you got to have a bit of a sense of humor, I guess, for this kind of stuff. There you go. That's Cannibal Corpse with Hammer Smashed Face. That comes off the Tomb of the Mutilated album, released way back in 1992. So we're talking almost 35 years ago now. So yeah, that's a classic album by metal standards. It's absolutely a ripper from start to finish. Yeah, like I said, it took me a while to get into the band, but then once I got into it, that was it. It kind of I was a bit of a more of a fan of Obituary and Morbid Angel. They were kind of the first death metal bands I got into. And if you listen to their vocals, talking about, the vocals earlier, that was a little easier to digest, I guess, so to speak. Obituary especially were, I don't know, especially when I look at it now, it's funny. I don't really see them as a death metal band as much as I thought they were. They're not as heavy. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan, but I just don't think they're as heavy as sort of like your Cannibal Corpses and stuff. Um, so it was a little bit more easier to get into, I guess. Hence why I sort of got into them first. But yeah, Cannibal Corpse is a fantastic band. It's been a while since I've seen them live. I'd love to go and see them again. I guess they're still touring, and I know they're putting out new music as well. And yeah, it's I don't know how far can you take it. They've been doing it for a long time, and yeah, it's an interesting conversation to have. How extreme can music get? We thought it couldn't get any heavier than Slayer, and then Cannibal Corpse came along, and then a lot of your deathcore bands and stuff came along later on, and so I don't know where's it going to go from now in the next 10 years or so. I mean, who knows? It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I think the music these days has become more technical. I don't know if you can really get more extreme as far as heaviness and stuff like that. I think it's peaked as far as that's concerned. But I think music has just become more technical and seeing what kind of fancy tricks you can do, especially with the digital age and the way that people can create music now online and stuff like that. You can do all kinds of stuff. So yeah, there you go, Cannibal Corpse with a Hammer Smash Face. Thanks for tuning in as always, and please subscribe if you haven't. And follow us on our social medias. All the links are in the description below. And I'll see you in the next video.